Let's start on this Monday morning about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with the premise and the working theory that everything that social media, right-wing influencers, TV people, YouTube people, everything that they say in the Trump ecosystem is a talking point provided to them on demand from the White House, from Stephen Miller, from the Office of Communications for Donald Trump, by Donald Trump himself. And they are now apoplectic and wrapped around their own axle on how to try to run interference and defend Donald Trump giving immunity to a child sex trafficker and considering giving her a pardon. And so you're seeing all sorts of different talking points pushed by Donald Trump. The first one, I'm going to do about 5 or 6 of them. The first one is Greg Kelly on Newsmax. He volunteered to be the one to go on television to say that Ghislaine Maxwell deserves our pity and because she may be a victim. Let me remind Mr. Kelly that the Department of Justice, Donald Trump's Department of Justice, just filed a brief opposing her appeal of her conviction 9-0 before a jury beyond a reasonable doubt in New York. And by laying out all of the depraved conduct she participated in willingly, that led to the raping of girls and 1,000 victims. That's the Trump administration in the last 2 weeks. So no one believes she's a victim. But the fact that Donald Trump in a depraved way allows and promotes that theory to be picked up and by these influencers tells you everything you need to know about why I continue to talk about this story today. Let's run Greg Kelly's clip.
Granted, she hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, and I know that's apparently not good, but she's in jail for how long now? 20 years, a 20-year sentence. Well, Alan Dershowitz is one of the greatest attorneys who ever lived, and he has this to say about the Ghislaine Maxwell situation, speaking with Newsmax veteran Eric Bolling.
Should Ghislaine Maxwell be behind bars?
She shouldn't be, but she is. She is really serving Jeffrey Epstein's sentence after he committed suicide. There was no one else to prosecute because there was no real information against anybody else. And so they went after her and they sentenced her to a sentence that would have been appropriate for Epstein, but not at all appropriate for her. And so she's appealing now, and I hope the appeal will be granted. She deserves to be out.
She deserves to be out, and maybe she never deserved to be in there in the first place. Now, how could you say such a thing? I mean, these are perverts. These are child molesters. We've heard that from whom? From the media? From prosecutors? Prosecutors prosecuted President Trump over nothing. I don't know, but I'm skeptical of everything and everybody these days, and you should be too.
Okay, we're here together, Legal AF, going over hard issues, not blowing smoke or sunshine. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. So that was the talking point being pushed by the White House to try to rehabilitate Ghislaine Maxwell. Similarly, people that know her well, who are not forthcoming about their close relationship with Maxwell or their close relationship, mentor-mentee relationship with her current lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, is Alan Dershowitz, a professor at Harvard who was also caught up in the scandal, had one time represented Epstein, was accused by Virginia Giuffre, who committed suicide in April, of having participated in the abuse. And Dershowitz goes on Fox and acts like Alan Dershowitz, professor of law, Harvard, without also revealing that he is close, super close with her lawyer and was probably the one that connected Ghislaine Maxwell to her current lawyer, David Oscar Marcus. Here's a clip of Dershowitz commenting on Ghislaine Maxwell that she's the Rosetta Stone that knows everything and she should be given immunity, which she already does. So that's talking point number 2 for if you're scoring at home for the Trump administration and Donald Trump. Get Dershowitz on television, have him promote how important and critical she is to revealing all the information. And by the way, give her immunity. And at the same time, don't reveal to your audience that you're best friends or very close friends with her lawyer and that you were also involved or implicated in the scandal. Let's run the Fox News Dershowitz clip.
She should be potentially offered congressional immunity to go and testify. Do you think that would happen? And what kind of information would she have that we haven't seen?
She knows everything. She is the Rosetta Stone. She knows everything. She arranged every single trip with everybody. She knows everything. And if she were just given use immunity, she could be compelled to testify. I'm told that she actually would be willing to testify, and there'd be no reason for her to withhold any information. So I don't see any negative in giving her the kind of use immunity that would compel her to testify. So she ought to be summoned in front of a congressional committee.
Well, we'll continue to track her case. Professor, thank you for weighing in and giving us a little bit of an insider look at what you know. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So now you've got two talking points. She's a victim. She's the Rosetta Stone. Now let's move to the other end, the people that couldn't quite get there. Well, we're not there yet. Let's do one more talking point, that the Trump administration is being completely transparent about everything related to Epstein. Okay? Where'd that come from? Benny Johnson, whose entire career is based on supporting Donald Trump, he said, I'm going to show you his clip after Donald Trump sent Todd Blanche, his criminal defense lawyer, who went without any prosecutor who prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell and met with her for 12 hours over 2 days with his best buddy, which he did not reveal, who is David Oscar Marcus, the same lawyer I just told you about with Dershowitz. Just the setting up of that interview leads Benny Johnson to promote talking point number 3, pushed by Donald Trump. This is what transparency looks like. Let's go, Benny.
Everybody's been calling for more transparency. Well, there's nothing more transparent than this. Ghislaine Maxwell is, of course, the madame who was the critical element of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. She knows, well, where all the bodies are buried. She definitely knows who's on a client list. In fact, her client list was kept secret in a plea agreement that she had with the federal government. Anyway, the point is that it's a nightmare for anybody who's saying, well, we want to keep this list secret. This is what transparency looks like. And whether you like it or not, Ghislaine Maxwell coming forward and then testifying on behalf of what she knows is what we have been calling for on this channel.
That's what transparency looks like. I'll tell you that's transparency to you, Betty? Okay. Let's go through the transparency badges. They fired 3 weeks ago, the Trump administration, the prosecutor, the main prosecutor for Ghislaine Maxwell, who knows where all the bodies are buried, who knows the evidence like the back of her hand, that should have been in the room when the number 2 member of the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, interviewed her in order to trap her and catch her in any lies. How does Todd Blanche know? He doesn't know the case, the 3 gigabytes of evidence. You think he got ready for this in like 1 day? So you fire the prosecutor, right? You don't bring anybody in with you, FBI agent or prosecutor who knows anything about the case, so it can be seen as a neutral fact finding. How do you fact find if you don't have the people next to you that can help support you when she walks into a trap? Or how do you set a trap when you're interviewing her? Then you've got the not releasing. This is the lack of transparency, Benny. The not releasing 3 gigabytes or more, 3 terabytes of information. That is the Epstein files. Let's define the Epstein files the right way. It is everything that was picked up by the FBI in search warrants when they raided and finally captured Ghislaine Maxwell, who was on the run. Same thing with Epstein. His safe that Michael Wolff, the journalist, has seen with everything in it. The hard drives, the cell phones, the documents, the photos, the pictures, the videos. The 302 statements, the witness statements of every one of the 1,000 victims and people that knew people around them. That's thousands and thousands of witness statements and documents and evidence. You know, the thing that took round the clock, hundreds, thousands of hours of manpower to review by the FBI, the quote unquote truckload of documents. That's Pam Bondi's phrase. That's the Epstein files. The thing that, in the failure to be transparent, Todd Blanche never reviewed or got prepared on before he met with Ghislaine Maxwell. So where is all of that, Benny? You know, in terms of lack of transparency. Okay, so you've got that. Now, let's go to the next talking point. Some of the right-wing media, social media influence can't quite come to where Donald Trump wants them, which is to believe everything that Ghislaine Maxwell says. So you've got Charlie Kirk, who kind of leads the young MAGA Republican social media world. He says, well, you can't really trust her. She did some pretty awful things. And this is all off the same weekend. So let's run that clip.
Because out of all the information in front of us, it's not going to be some sort of potential mine that James Comey left to try to hurt Donald Trump, as evidenced by the Wall Street Journal piece. It's going to be most likely something from the words of Ghislaine Maxwell. And this is the position of this program. And this has been the unwavering position of this program this entire time. We just want the truth. We are truth seekers and we are transparency seekers. Now, some people say, can we trust Ghislaine Maxwell? Probably, but also probably not. She is in jail for doing some really bad and awful stuff. She was a co-conspirator with some of the most demonic and evil activity that one can comprehend. But that's why Todd Blanche is going to do what he does. She's obviously self-interested, and she probably wants some sort of leniency or some sort of special accommodation from the federal government.
All right. And then finally, Jack Posobiec, who's a friend of Kirk's and appears on a lot of the same shows, he also can't get there. He says, you can't trust her. You can't trust her unless she's completely forthcoming. But Jack, how is she ever going to become completely forthcoming if the lawyers for the Department of Justice have no knowledge of her case well enough to do that interview? Let's run Posobiec's clip.
So she's Lady Epstein right there, and saying that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, potentially personally, will be headed down there to Tallahassee, Florida, to meet with her. We've got this statement out there saying the Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice for wherever the facts may lead. Now, the question, of course, obviously, I think a lot of people will have is, what's in it for Ghislaine Maxwell to cooperate? Well, it's very clear what her motive is. Her motive is that she either wants time reduced on her sentence or a full-on presidential pardon. So this is where the competition, the tension, if you will, comes in. The tension comes in where, with Maxwell saying, okay, I'll sit down with you. Here's what I want in exchange. But of course, when it comes to any of these deals, a plea deal, or in this case, a cooperation agreement, when it really comes down to it, you have to weigh that against a variety of things. Number one, justice for the victim, which is something that absolutely deserves for her to be behind bars. Then again, you also have to talk about accountability. So if she's just going to say, oh, here's the Maxwell blacklist, which is the same thing as the Epstein blacklist. No, sorry, not good enough. Already been out there. You need to provide names. You need to provide receipts and name names. So if Ghislaine Maxwell wants anything from the Department of Justice, there needs to be names, there needs to be receipts, and by the way, a full-on chain of custody. What I mean by all this, I mean, it's not enough to say, okay, here's the testimony. This guy did this and this guy. No, not good enough. We've been down that road before. Everything. Absolutely everything.
So what is the takeaway? There are a series of talking points handed out, hand-feeded, spoon-fed to right-wing social media that works in conjunction with the rapid response team for 47 out of the White House that you and I pay for, apparently, with our tax dollars. And some of them get the script and read it verbatim, like what we just did with, Ghislaine Maxwell, Greg Kelly said, maybe a victim, to that's what transparency looks like, to others that are like, yeah, you really can't trust her, or you can trust her if you can get everything out of her. So people are taking different positions on credibility, but they all believe that Maxwell, because she's the only living, breathing participant in the criminal conspiracy of child sex trafficking, is going to be able to tell the truth. She's sitting in jail, facing like 18 more years in jail for her participation. She's not a victim because she didn't kill herself like Epstein or whatever happened to Epstein. That doesn't make us have pity for her or empathy for her. I can't empathize with a child sex trafficker. Okay? I'm sorry that she's the only living participant of the criminal conspiracy that got indicted and convicted. Now, are there other people that she has knowledge of? I mean, I'm sure she was debriefed the first time around by the Department of Justice who asked questions. You know, what she's got a list of other people that participated in a child sex abuse ring. Then go after them. They should be prosecuted. They should be investigated, but not as a distraction from what is happening at the Trump administration. Why are we 6 months into this administration and Donald Trump continues to be obstructionist about Jeffrey Epstein if he's got nothing to hide? If he's got nothing to hide, and he would act like a man with nothing to hide. He would say, I take off the table and I'll never pardon a convicted child sex trafficker, especially while my own Department of Justice Solicitor General's office is opposing her appeal. That's one. I'll never do that, so don't worry. Explain yourself as to why you gave her immunity at all to meet with Todd Blanche. Why? What does she have? She's already convicted. It's not like she knows where the bodies are buried, literally. So why did you do that? Take to the podium and explain to the American people why you did that. Release finally and explain why they weren't released earlier all of the documents that Pam Bondi had the FBI go through to search for your name. That would be transparency. Wouldn't it, Betty Johnson? That would be transparency. And once you do that, and then you can explain why you had a falling out with Epstein that had nothing to do with you discovering that he was a predator, because if you had done that, you should have reported that to the authorities and taken him off the streets so he wouldn't abuse other women, but that it was a falling out over a real estate deal. Be honest with the American people. Have a fireside chat with them, right? Put on a cardigan and tell the truth to the American people. But since he'll never do that because in his DNA is a strand of being a liar, of being dishonest, of being an abuser of women. So he could never get those words, through his mouth and through his, out of his mouth. So we'll continue to follow it right here on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. Do the exact same thing on our Substack. Until my next report later today, this is Michael Popak. I'm Michael Popak, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popak Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popak Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popak Firm today at 1-877-POPAK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopakfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popak Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.